So thank you everybody and good morning. This is Team Hexanika and my name is Arun Iyer. I head the products for Hexanika. We have Yogesh Pandit, our CEO, Bharat, who has been driving this, and our team on call. Also part of our team, and we're very thankful for their presence. We partnered with Greg Ellis, who is co-founder of Mortgage Peer Network and our partner. And we had the good fortune of meeting Jason Richardson, Director NCRC, and he acted as a HMDA specialist and expert in this engagement. Well, as a team, our passion is to develop industry-focused solutions that take data and delivers business outcome. So in this context, we've been working on a fair lending platform. So coming to the context of this tech sprint, we've been participating in both the tracks. We just finished our presentation of the previous track, and we are here to make the second presentation. So now on the previous presentation, we presented our end-to-end platform for fair lending, and here we are going to talk about two components which are extensions to our core platform, which is SMARTIOIN Plus, which is our advanced analytics platform. And something that we want to introduce as a completely new concept is complaints management and how we can use that as a sentiment analyzer and a means to identify potential disparities in the fair lending processes. So these are the two things that we'll talk about. When we looked at who our user would be, right, and are typically looking at risk compliance managers who are looking to assess the fair lending risk that the firm has, right? And obviously they are looking at various aspects of the data itself. But what we intended to do is what is it that we can provide to these end users beyond what is apparent and obvious from the data that they have, right? And that's where we're looking at various dimensions. And one of the key dimensions that we are looking to introduce here, and I will talk about it, is customer experience. Right, and obviously we see the regulator benefiting out of this and being able to get more insights into possible discriminations that are happening. We've been sourcing the CFPB data, and we are marrying it with this customer feedback that we're getting from one of our partners, Greg Ellis's organization, and the LAR data that we capture and maintain within our platform. Very briefly about our solution. So this is what we already presented in the submissions track. We have an end-to-end platform, which is going to be launched as a SaaS offering very soon for fair lending, where we manage the entire data flow from ingesting sourcing data to generating HMDA reports for submission, CRA reports, and a variety of risk reports. And the components that we are adding to it, and we'll talk about it in detail, is the SMARTIOIN analytics and the complaints management. So the focus of this presentation is going to be FNG here. So first about what we did with our SMARTIOIN Plus and the hypothesis we started off when we decided to use the data browser API to download the historical LAR data. The hypothesis was whether using historical data, we can arrive at a model where action taken on the application is a variable on which we can identify potential disparities in the predicted outcome by a model versus an actual outcome that would have been taken by a firm during their current year's submission. Right. So we followed the usual process of getting the data. We started off with defining a peer group. In this case, we decided after a lot of internal debate, we took 3 banks, which were mid-sized banks and with a similar state profile. We did a lot of data cleansing and transformation where we had to overfit to get a better modeling prediction, especially on the denial rates. And then we did a feature engineering and trained the model to arrive at that model. Right. So I would like to. So these are some initial data analysis that we did. especially the typical variables, ethnicity, race, and gender. But beyond that, we were able to identify a number of other variables that we would, and we took a holistic approach. We wanted to take the aggregate data and not just limit to particular silos. So obvious data points were debt to income ratio, loan to value ratio, loan term, property value, and so forth. And the model that we arrived at gave us about over 90% accuracy, with a slightly lower recall value, especially for denial. So when we ran the trained model on a completely new bank's data set, we could get about 90% accuracy in predicting the actual action taken versus the predicted action taken. And there were mismatches. Obviously, 10% of the data points did not match, where we usually predicted an approved loan where the actual outcome was denied, right? And there we tried to do some further analysis. For example, one of the things we saw is that there was, say, about 1% of the loan where the reason for denial was debt to income ratio as the reason, but the actual, when you looked at the actual data, the DTI was less than 30%, right? So the objective of the analysis was to identify these potential disparities in what the outcome was and what the data really suggested, and whether that would be a means for the analyst to further probe and see if there is either a data quality issue or a genuine thing that needs to be investigated. Some of the learnings that we came, and with a lot of inputs from Jason, who's an industry expert, we realized that the peer group selection should have been much more granular. We were taking complete banks and that were cutting across states. Maybe we should have limited to specific geographies. Another thing that mattered is the conforming versus non-conforming loans. If we segregated them, the percentages improved. Ethnicity, of course, we took the derived ethnicities and derived races, but we realized that it could potentially benefit us if we go to the granular level. And of course, since credit score was not available, probably using substitutes like credit rating model or such would have helped. Some of our suggestions here is we would have loved if the data browser API itself allowed for a peer group selection by asset size, area of operations, etc., or at least download by LEI. And the other piece that we think that CFPB could consider is to allow the API to select specific attributes you want to download data, right? So you get everything now, but if there is a way to select which attributes you want to download, and you would love to work with CFPB to enable this as we progress. Now moving on to the second piece, right? And this is a complete greenfield idea. What we took from our partner is customer experience data, which is what they administer for banks, which takes the customer after a loan has been either originated or not, and the process is over. They get a customer feedback in terms of scores on a variety of parameters through the life cycle, and that's the data that we inputted. And of course, there was additional textual input in terms of free-form information that the customer would provide. The objective was to marry that with the LAR data that would be available and do two levels of analysis. One is pure sentiment analysis of the feedback. We used NLP to analyze text-based customer feedback to get how many % of positive versus negative versus neutral outcome. And within that, further classify negative outcome, whether it is related to person, process, or the general experience. Right? And the key aspect we want to do here is to combine the customer sentiment data with loan transaction data to be able to use customer experience as an additional dimension, really to assess whether there are any biases happening to the protected groups, ethnicity, race, gender. And it could be in terms of delayed responses, it could be in terms of delayed application processing times at different, and the time it took during various stages of the entire loan life cycle. And so let me
just jump into Marco, 2 minutes remaining for the presentation. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so these are the two key areas that we worked on. Of course, what we believe our solution, along with our core solution, which is the end-to-end platform, is to be able to provide the end user with more insights into their fair lending risks and identify potential disparities in the action taken. and be it due to data quality or actual discrepancies in their internal operations. At the organization level, of course, manage the risks better, reduce reputational risk, and improve the customer experience, right? Especially around the customer sentiments that we talked about. The end objective would be for the bank to identify potential areas to improve their experience and how that would help them overall reduce their fair lending risk. And of course, the regulator, by being able to look at this added dimension, get a better sort of governance or improve the overall regulatory oversight over this process. What we intend with the future, if we were to crystal gaze, along with our core platform, which allows the bank to comply with the process right from getting data till submission, with our dashboards, which allows them to assess their fair lending risks on various risk parameters like underwriting, pricing, redlining, marketing, so forth. We want to add this additional dimension of machine learning and artificial intelligence to be able to do predictive modeling and potentially prevent that fair lending risks from occurring. Right. So that's what our vision is: cover the entire, take a holistic view of fair lending risks, right from compliance till prevention, and that's the summary of what we intend to bring to the market. Thank you.